Okay. Testing. MV7 quadcast is testing. Probably need some more headroom here. Truth be told, I wasn't 100% certain I was going to stream, but plans for the day kind of fell through, or plans for half the day kind of fell through again. So I thought to myself, you know what, since I got the time now, let's stream. At least for a quick, brief hour and a half or so. See what goes down, see if anybody's online that wants to chat about the particular topics that I have on docket today. See how many people are coming through. Oh, we got somebody. Bones, hello. Welcome. Yeah, and it's funny because originally I only had 3 topics that I really wanted to talk about, but as I kind of simply just scoured social media, specifically Twitter, a little bit of Reddit, a little bit of Facebook, I was like, oof. There's also a couple of other things that I kind of telegraphed and predicted, but I was still hoping to some extent that I was going to be wrong. And I wasn't, unfortunately. What the hell? Okay. So yeah, I'll let a little bit more time kind of come through. Hey, Christian Corbett, welcome to the stream. I haven't seen you in a while. Make sure that I'm not peeking here. Oh, okay. Then let me open up the McFarlane Toys Twitter account ish. Here we go. That's good. Oh, crap. Did I get charged for something? Shit. Let me check. Guys, I think I got... No, I think I did. Hold on, let me see. Yep, I did. Alright, I'm gonna have to look at the other one. I mean, technically, if I change my mind about something, I could always kind of return it. While keeping it sealed. Not be a full scumbag, but keeping it sealed. Yeah, I got charged for something that I did not mean. Well, I don't know. Who knows? Ugh, and it includes that. Alright, so where's the other one? It's always the stuff that you're like, no, not that. Okay, so that I guess we can kind of just leave alone for now. When's the 29th? What day is today? The 21st. That's over a week from now. Jesus. Okay. Alright, so waiting for a few more minutes here, but at the same time, how you guys doing today? I know it's Wednesday. I know it's not necessarily... There was a part of me that was trying to decide if I should stream today or if I should stream Wednesday. I won't be able to stream tomorrow because I actually have a video set to go out tomorrow, which is actually on the cusp of pretty much being done. And again, I don't have headroom. I don't know what's up with that. There we go. Yeah, I have a review that's like 95% done. I just need to add those little bits of music at the end and at the beginning. and I'm missing one shot, which I literally just have to go and shoot. I just didn't know I was missing it, but basically I just need to turn around, light, turn on the light box, go over there, get the close up, and splice it in, and then we're done. So those three things, or two things, I guess, and it's done. I'll leave it rendering when I head to the gym a little bit later on, and it'll go up tomorrow. But because it goes up tomorrow, I generally don't like to stream. I don't know how some people do it. I guess it really depends on where the status of their channel is. But I know that some people like to post a video early in the morning and then later on, either in the afternoon or at night, go live. I feel like I'm not in a position to be able to do that. I'm not in exactly. The channel's not at the size that it needs to be for me to be able to just willy nilly. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, just be able to, post and stream the same day and not risk cannibalizing the viewership that the video could have, that video that goes up that morning could have, that kind of thing. At least not yet. I feel like eventually we will get there, but for now, I'll just have to treat it, treat things like the way programming is on TV, where I know that at times, you need to cater to where people are going to be prioritizing their time, especially on a weekday. It's so. For example, this circumstance of like posting a video and then going live later on in the day, I could say maybe that could work for like on a weekend. So, hypothetically speaking, if I was to post a video on a Saturday morning or a Sunday, like I sometimes like to do, then maybe later on in that day I could afford to go live, because then it's like, all right, well, it's the weekend. The majority of the time you guys are off. So there's a good chance that viewers are going to be able to watch the video over breakfast or something, and then later on at night when they're just at home chilling, they see me go live and be like, oh, let me check them out. But that's not where they're at. So that's why I thought to myself, okay, I either have to go to live today or Friday. And I thought to myself, well, I guess today, because after this I could go back to editing, catch dinner, maybe play about an hour and a half or so of Doom the Dark Ages, which I actually do have. And who knows, I might be doing, if I beat it by the end of this week, maybe if I go live next week, I'll do like a little mini review topic segment during the live stream. Maybe at the very beginning, as like a kind of offshoot topic discussion that doesn't necessarily have to do with action figures or Batman or Spider-Man or anything like that, because I do have it, and the code was provided by Bethesda, so I guess what I could do is definitely provide some sort of review, some sort of impressions video, which I guess right now, if I was to do preliminary impressions on Doom the Dark Ages after about 5-ish hours or so of playing, which 5 hours or so, that's already about a quarter of the game, because a quarter of the game, maybe even a third of the game, because Doom games are generally not meant to be terribly long. So right now we'll say that I'm thoroughly enjoying the game with an awful lot of badass moments, and I don't know if maybe it's just a sign of me getting old or bitter or losing heart or soul, but is it one of the better games of the year so far? One of the most polished and fun games of the year so far? Absolutely. Is it my favorite Doom game out of the past 3 by id, ever since the reboot / revamp / whatever you want to call it, the 2016 version? No, honestly, I think Eternal's still my favorite. We'll see if that changes by the time I roll credits on Dark Ages, but right now, Eternal's still peak, as the kids like to say. Right now, I gotta be honest, Dark Ages, despite still being good and well made and polished and all that, it feels like the best analogy that I can think of to kind of tie it back to Batman. It's truly feeling like the Dark Knight Rises of the trilogy, where I'm like, there's still really awesome things about it, but it's also kind of sandwiched in some things where I'm like, it's not bad, but I'm like, it's not hitting like it did in Eternal, which in this case would be, in my opinion, the Dark Knight of the trilogy thus far. And unfortunately, I have to echo with what other people have been saying already. It's going to sound repetitive, but I have to wholeheartedly agree. One of the biggest detriments to Dark Ages is losing Mick Gordon. And for those of you who don't know, he's not dead. There was a severe, massive fallout between the composer of the first two games, Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, composer Mick Gordon and the publisher Bethesda after they like mixed his soundtrack with I can't remember the exact details, but I think it was something along the lines of like they mixed his soundtrack without his permission in a way that he didn't call for, and in doing so they they didn't pay him or something like that. There was a little bit of, from what I remember reading, Mick Gordon wasn't exactly a saint himself either. He was like disclosing things that I think he was still under NDA of. So I was like, all right, dude, you're acting a little petty, but at the same time, I'm not excusing Bethesda either. I saw the receipts on both ends. And I believe at the end of the day, he did get paid out by Bethesda, but at the end of the day, for a fact that the two are like, we're done. You and me are done professionally. Christian Bale, again, going back. So naturally, he did not come back for Dark Ages. It's not even a sole composer. It's like a group or something. And in a vacuum, the music is fine, but you definitely feel the absence of Mick Gordon. Like, there's no track from Dark Ages so far that I think of to play by itself at the gym. To this day, I still, from time to time, still play the Only Thing They Fear Is You, the main theme track from Eternal in the gym. And it still hypes me up to this day. 5 years later, and I still play that track on my Pandora. It's not really on Pandora, I think. I think it's on either Spotify or you just have to play it off of YouTube. So yeah, so far I'm enjoying Dark Ages. I'm definitely seeing it to the very end, but I'm also taking my time and like I said, one of the things that is a little detrimental is knowing that there's some lost factors from Eternal. I feel like, and one advantage that it does have is that it's technically a prequel, so you can almost kind of excuse certain things not being in this game that were in Eternal because it's like, well, it's supposed to come before. But at the same time, you saw this in the trailer, so it's not really a bit of a spoiler, but this game also introduces the concepts of mechs, like Voltron Gundam-sized mechs, and dragons that you can ride and shoot machine guns of. And it's tough to think about, Eternal. 2016, maybe you can excuse it, but by the time you get to the storyline in Eternal, you think to yourself, why is he not able to? Hopefully there'll be an answer once I get to the end of Dark Ages. But right now, I'm trying to think about why it is that he hasn't been able to call upon a mech or a dragon in those circumstances if it was introduced in Dark Ages. But at the same time, I feel like there might be an answer coming up. So I'm not going to rule that out. Like I said, I'm only 5 hours in. I could be proven wrong, and I'm actually really hoping I'm wrong. If they find a really cool, interesting way to explain why certain mechanics and certain weaponry that are present in Dark Ages are not present in Eternal or 2016, then I'll be like, all right, cool, awesome. At least that was a clever way to explain it and making it still cohesive with Dark Ages so far. And still being able to fundamentally build up on the game. Okay, so enough small talk. Let me get to the topics. The first one, which in my opinion was, I think, the catalyst to get me to stream, because for a little while, like I said, it was a little dry in terms of topics, which in and of itself kind of became a topic as time went on, where I'm like, things are kind of quiet, especially on the McFarlane DC front. But before we get to that, there was one announcement from a company that I've known about for quite a while, but finally they're going into a wheelhouse that I look at and I go, oh, this is interesting. Because for those of you who are familiar with Jazzinc or Jazzinc dioramas, they mostly specialize in vehicles. And they are very attentive to detail. They like to go the extra mile of like building certain like mechanics and features and things into their vehicles to the point where you're like, damn. And at the same time, it starts to kind of walk a very thin tightrope of like how many of these features are genuinely cool or they're just included so that they can kind of up the price, and at the end of the day they fall by the wayside and become a bit superfluous. So case in point, they made a 1/6 scale, I believe it's 1/6 scale, Batmobile from the Batman, the Pattinson one. And I remember one of the big draws about that thing is that you can actually take like a little eyedropper and pour this specific kind of liquid into the back engine so that then it could spout out like vapor to make it look like it's smoking. And I'm like, that looks sick, that looks awesome. Realistically, how many collectors are going to be routinely doing that to show it off in their like collecting den? You know what I'm saying? Like, how often is that feature really going to be used? And so, and the upkeep, having to clean it, because that's going to require some cleaning. So then you think about that, and then you think about the fact that some of these vehicles go for about $1,300, $1,400, $1,500, and you're like, that kind of kills it. That's kind of a death knell, at least for the average prosumer, let's call them prosumer, because let's face it, an awful lot of these 1/6 scale vehicles and things are going to be catering to people who collect Hot Toys, which I think in the past couple of years they managed to kind of blur a little bit between the people who are quote unquote rich versus those who are middle class and can kind of at least put a little bit off to the side to dedicate to that very high end 1/6 scale collectible vehicle or figure. And now it looks like Jazzinc is trying to tap into that a little bit further by now delivering figures. And I've been hearing about them wanting to do figures for some time, but now they're going into, like I said, a property, a specific iteration of Batman that even I am familiar with, and this is exactly why it kind of piqued my interest. That was going to be for the Batman animated series Batman. So here you have him, a 1/6 scale figure of animated series Batman. This genuinely intrigued me. They actually posted but coming up on a couple of weeks ago, prototype images and mostly renders. They're mostly renders, to be honest, of what they're designing to be a 1/6 scale animated series Batman, complete with like realistic scans. Because, like I said, that's the big thing about Jazzinc. Especially, I think his name is Jost, is the main guy, the guy who's in charge, the CEO, and he puts out these videos on their official YouTube channel, Jazzinc. And like I said, I've been knowing about them for a while, and I know that their main thing was vehicles. But when they start to get into figures with like the Batman Returns Catwoman, I was like, okay, there's potential to see what they can kind of do in the future. And now it looks like finally the alarm bell for me personally has been rung in the form of an animated series Batman, to where, like I said, they're going proportionally with that classic Bruce Timm look. You got the head sculpts. It looks like you're going to have 3 head sculpts with 2 mouth plates. The static frown one, the slight smirk one, grimace, and then shocked, complete with angry face, slightly neutral-ish kind of default face, as you can kind of see in these renders. And then the shocked, like, if anything, this face, almost all the time, every time I see it, is when Harvey Dent becomes Two-Face in the animated series. For those of you who, like, he gets blasted with that chemical stuff. He's like, Harvey, no. And he looks like that. Very seldom he makes that face, but that's probably the one that stands out the most. And then naturally a Bruce Wayne face right there, complete with the little detail of like the coil, the smirk, the classic, like I said, jawline. Now it does, every picture right here, however, says design in development pending license or approval. So we'll see how much of this gets changed depending on what WB says. But I believe they technically do have a form of partnership to say, okay, you're cool with making these. Along with that, you're also going to get the accessories, of course, the belt. I don't know why this bat symbol is by itself, but naturally you're also going to have a breathalyzer, the little eye, night vision kind of visor that he puts up ever so often throughout the animated series. I believe this is the grapple, because it's got those 2 buttons that he sometimes presses. I think a tape recorder from what I remember. And then, of course, you can't go wrong with including a batarang. Then over on the side, the different hand... Whoa, going too fast. Over here, you're going to have the hand accessories and removable gauntlets with the spikes, which leads me to believe that, I don't know if they're going to show it off here in the pictures. I don't know, it might come up, but that makes me theorize that maybe we're going to have a way to make like a relaxed coming in from a night out Bruce Wayne still wearing the Batman suit, but taking off the gloves with like natural silicone, skin textured hands, and then of course removing the cowl with the Bruce Wayne head. So he's kind of like this, like taking on the computer, like after he just came in and talking to Alfred. God only knows if we're gonna get a 1/6 scale Alfred from animated series. But there you have the head. I think this picture, if anything, kind of showcases the blue shading reminiscent of his look in the animated series. Which, in my opinion, I gotta be honest, some people might differ on this topic, on this point, but I personally like it when they do this versus the very straight-lined, cel-shaded look. Like sometimes McFarlane or even DC Direct back in the day, or even some other companies like to do with the animated series property, where they do the cel shading, but it's literally like almost kind of looks like watercolor, not really, but it looks like like splotches to make it look like it's cel shading, but it only works from certain angles, and to me it never really sold it, because often when I have like the full lighting setup here and I'm doing the review, it sometimes looks a little off. And then with other characters like Robin, it looks like they peed their pants because they went with like a darker hue on the inside of the pants of like the red or the green for his suit. But even though they intended for it to look like cel shading, it ends up looking, like I said, like he peed his pants. So it doesn't translate terribly unless you put it in a very specific angle with very specific lighting. Whereas this, I don't know what technique this is called, but the way that they do the blue shading here, I personally like this better. And it's the type of thing that I kind of talk about when it comes to preferring the animated series look. Now, once they move away from that, they get to this, which should be intriguing, because if you guys are looking at this and thinking to yourself, he looks kind of different than he did at the beginning, that's true. They're actually making two figures, which are mostly gonna almost be similar in terms of like head sculpts and like the gauntlets and maybe even the cape, I believe. I think. But the body itself is going to be different. Apparently, they're going to make two bodies. One that will definitely be disproportionate and super animated and super, upside down V-shaped, or rather V-shaped, to look like the Bruce Timm style of those bodies. Those exaggerated proportions, very, angular, very Art Deco style. And then they're also going to make a natural, realistic body type, complete with musculature underneath the skin of the suit. Gotta be honest, I think I'm definitely going for the because if you're making animated series Batman, then he's gotta look like the animated series. Once you delve into this territory of like the realistic body, I'm like, no, that throws my brain off, and I just look at it and I go, it's just, I get what you guys are doing. It's a novel approach, but nah. If I only have money for one, and you told me to pick one, immediately I'll be like, animated series, not this one. The classic animated series one. And it's funny because to an extent, it almost seems like they want you to get both, because they're actually not going to be all that terribly costly. They're not going to be cheap either, but they're also not going to be like devilishly priced. Let me see if they get to like the price point, because they do mention the price point here in the video. I'm trying to remember if they wrote it in the breakdown here, or if not, then he definitely mentions it. Let me see if I can remember. Gotta put on the headset for this one. Let me see. Make sure it's not blaring out. There we go.
Exciting. So first off, for the fully animated version, the custom engineered, fully posable body with screen accurate proportions, then the custom tailored suit, the clothing, of course, which you cannot see in this render yet. Then there's the two interchangeable head sculpts that we talked about, as well as the 4 mouth plates and the extra unmasked sculpt. And then, of course, a cape, the cape which has a blue lining on the inside, and it will have a wire so that you can pose it like this. Then the accessories.
I was about to say, do they have the wire in it? Yeah.
And the price point for all of this, $249. Same for the realistic version.
$249. It's not terrible. Not cheap. I'm not saying it's cheap or like a bargain or like a deal. It's not, but at the same time, I'm like, I gotta be honest, for Jazzinc, I was kind of expecting somewhere close to about 300, but 249, I'm like,
Except then it's a customized 5.
Now, apparently it's gonna be the same price for this one.
Highest quality, full metal skeleton, also.
Yeah, see, a metal skeleton underneath, I'm like, I don't, no offense, but I don't care, because I'm not gonna see it. Unless people who get it in their hand, like preview units, do reviews and they come back saying, yo, the articulation the actual posability, it feels nice. You can actually feel it, and it does something that may not translate well visually on camera, but at least some of these people who maybe some of these influencers who might get some ahead of time might be able to convey that and go, yeah, the skeleton actually does benefit the articulation. Jazzinc, if you guys want to hit me up and talk shop about, covering this on the channel, hit me up. I'll definitely be down for it. Because I'm definitely intrigued. This is one of the Batman that I grew up with. I would almost argue that I think I grew up with this guy more so than I even did with Bale or Keaton, or even the Schumacher interpretations, most definitely. So yeah, this is probably the first time that I definitely wanted to kind of showcase Jazzinc on screen, in terms of the streams and on the channel, because this definitely has my curiosity. It's something that I'll be following with great interest. Phantom Menace reference there. And they said that depending on how this guy performs in terms of pre-orders, sales, reception, they are looking into, I mean, they were already making the Batmobile. Like, this one was given. In fact, the Batmobile, because they do specialize in vehicles firsthand, is actually already up for pre-order. It goes for, I think, $14.99, which for me personally is a little too steep for me right now. But it's interesting to see that they're also tackling, wait, do I have it on the side here? Yeah, I actually do. Yeah, $14.99 pre-orders. They do have payment plans and all that stuff, but at the same time, it's got a bunch of light-up features, rubber tires, functioning headlights and backlights. So they go the extra mile of, like, if you press, I believe, whenever it says that, it kind of makes it seem like if you were to, like, turn the wheel, it turns the tires. If you, like, press some of the buttons or the stuff on the inside of the dashboard or the pedals, it'll actually function with the headlights, which, like I said, it's a crazy feature to go above and beyond, but at the same time, for me personally, at this current juncture, I'm like, this is a little steep. But to see that they're making a 1/6 scale figure that is definitely much more affordable, it speaks true to me. And he even mentions in the video that the fact that it's going for a very smoothed over look, because it's the animated series one, it's like, okay, well, it doesn't technically require all that manufacturing, so we can legit afford it to price it at $249, competitive prices for something like Hot Toys or even InArt. And that's why I thought of this and went, yo, this is crazy. And like I was saying before I got to the Batmobile stuff, is that if this performs well, they definitely already got some renders cooked up, a prototype, early stage renders of Joker and Robin. And I'm like, well, you better start rendering the rest of the body, because I'm finding it very difficult to not see how this guy could perform very, very well. Do you have a favorite Batmobile? For that much, you better be able to drive. I know. And it kind of it's funny because Jazzinc specializes in all that very, super prestige, super featured stuff where, like, the functioning headlights and all this stuff. And at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but keep in mind, you also got some competition. For those of you who are familiar with a company called Blitzway, they're coming out with a DeLorean that's got, like, a shit ton of features in terms of, like I said, the gas pedals working, the Mr. Fusion in the back lights up and actually makes noises, and I think it has a button where the wheels will then flip to the Part 2 version and do all these crazy things. But I think it's like less than 1,000. I think it's only like 800 or 900, and I'm like, hold on, let me look it up actually. Blitzway DeLorean, there it is, right off the bat. Yeah, how much is this thing going for again? Just under 1,000. $998. Yeah, that's probably my only little message to Jazzinc, is like, you guys got competition. This thing, which is already sold out, so I already missed mine, so it's aftermarket for me, should that ever come to pass. And also included, if you have pre-ordered, they would have tossed in the hoverboard, a commemorative titanium license plate to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Back to the Future, which I just realized is coming up here in October. 40 fucking years of Back to the Future. Holy shit, it's already 40 years. It's the 50 year of Jaws, and it's the 40 year of Back to the Future. I just I get both happy and depressed at the same time. And then naturally the out of time license plate that spins when it takes out for the first time. Yeah, $998, which is definitely not cheap, but at the same time, for what it can do, that's not terrible. It really is not. It's keeping it under 1,000 because look, motorized LED wheels, LED brake lights. When the brake pedal is pressed, the rear backlights illuminate just like a real vehicle. Engine startup sound, automatic doors and windows. Windows, I believe. Wait. Additional magnetic sensors embedded into the windows allow for smooth and realistic up and down movement. Yeah, apparently, I think it's either, I don't think it's like an actual button on the door, but I think you're given a remote where if you press it, the windows will go down. They didn't have to, I'm like, all right, front wheel steering, exterior blue LED and underside lighting, interior detail and wire depiction, and then the base that lets you kind of like prop it up and all that stuff. Hover base, yeah, you can make it look like it's hovering. Biff's cane, the break apart cane, the beer can magazine. When it says magazine, is that the almanac? It better be the almanac. Because I'm like, you're including the Biff's cane, but not the almanac? You got to. This is part 2. I think it's got to. Are there other pictures? Oh, there are other pictures. There's the beer can. He puts into Mr. Fusion. That's, like I said, that's the special item, to make it clear. If you didn't pre-order, you're not getting that. If they do make more units later, then... Oh, yeah, I think it is. Look, there it is. Yeah, so the magazine is the almanac. It is. All right, I was about to say, like, how can you not include the almanac? That would have been a humongously wasted opportunity. So, yeah, and all that for, like I said, just under 1,000. Now, keep in mind, that is excluding shipping and handling. But then, like I said, when you consider Jazzinc with like that Batmobile for $14.99 and then that shipping and handling, which is probably gonna creep it up to $2,000. Because keep in mind, these things are like this big, so we're not talking about a Hot Toys shipping where it's Hot Toys. Whenever they ship, how much is the shipping traditionally? Like $15 to $20. That's damn near triple that. $60 to $70. So it might as well be $2,000 at that point. But yeah, it would be cool to see if maybe I can like get in touch with Jazzinc to see how I can cover the 1/6 scale animated series Batman, because I obviously, you know, there's no obligation from them. It would just be cool to see, but nevertheless, I'm following it, and like I said, if my financial situation betters by the time that pre-orders go live for the animated series Batman, which they said is going to be in the last half of May, which we're technically in now. So we'll see. Granted, it's always possible that maybe they're held up by something. They're pending. That's the thing. Pre-orders, if I'm not mistaken, this goes for all companies, pre-orders cannot go live until they sort that whole vendor approval, licensing approval situation. Once that gets ironed out, then they can flip the switch on pre-orders. So it's possible that maybe that they're still waiting on that by WB, by Boost Tim, whoever holds the rights to that animated series look. That, who knows, maybe even not until June we'll get rumblings of that. So we'll see. Also, I could take this off. Okay, really quick. And this is definitely a quick one because I don't know how much else I can really... Except one particular angle. Keeping, I guess, you know, sticking with a little bit of the topic relating to 1/6 scale collectibles, the premium stuff for the prosumers, as far as blowing up the scale, making things much more realistic, much more high-end, but at the same time ballooning that price up subsequently, would be Hot Toys, which released... Not revealed, because revealed it like a year and a half ago, and I should know because that's when I put down my pre-order of the 2.0 BvS Batman, which just got released. Let me flip to, where the hell did I... Okay, I almost lost it. But Hot Toys released the Ben Affleck 2.0 revision, reissue, remake of the Batman vs. Superman incarnation of The Dark Knight, because even though they've already tackled this Batman not once but twice technically, because there was a release from BvS, which has since gotten a bit of an underdog sort of following from the 1/6 scale community, despite also being heavily criticized for having certain like inaccuracies about the suit, about the head sculpt, but still kind of fitting the bill. And then afterwards, they kind of did a bit of a retouch up with the Suicide Squad version, despite the fact that the character literally appears in 2 scenes in Suicide Squad. But I gotta be honest, I was actually one of the people who believed that up until the reveal and release of this 2.0, the definitive Ben Affleck Batman Hot Toys figure was the one from Suicide Squad. I feel like the shading of gray on his suit, as well as the overall level of accuracy, despite not being 100% accurate, was probably the closest to his on-screen counterpart in that Suicide Squad version versus the BvS version. And then when you get to Justice League, it's a whole different, not really a whole different suit, but it's technically a different suit. There's some people online that still believe that the BvS suit and the Justice League suit are the same. Look at some photos of him literally just standing in a very neutral pose. You can literally see those like little, they always do this. Whenever there's like a superhero sequel, they always touch up the suit with like a couple of little things. Like when people, I get a little bit triggered, gotta be honest. I'm one of the few people that get a little bit triggered when they say that the suit from Spider-Man 1, the Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi Spider-Man, is the same as the Spider-Man 2 suit. And I'm like, all you have to do is just flip them and look at the back symbols. It's a different suit. Almost looks the same, but they do that arbitrary thing where they kind of change up certain little details like they do with every suit. And it was the same thing going from BvS to Justice League. So Hot Toys almost kind of paid attention to that over the years and decided, I think it was either early last year or late 2023 when they revealed the 2.0. And now finally here we are outside of the release window, because I believe they wanted to release it between either October to like March of 2025, October 24 to March 25. A little delayed, a little over that window, but finally over in Hong Kong they released the 2.0. This is the final product. So it's funny because part of me wants to say that in a matter of weeks I'm probably going to be getting the email saying that the guy is about to arrive, because I do have a pre-order for it. But at the same time, with the stuff that's going on with the tariffs, I don't know. Like, I genuinely don't know, because on the one hand, I want to say that no, this is probably going to get delayed from the carrier shipping on overseas because of the whole tariff situation. But at the same time, I want to say, was it last week or the week before, I got my emails saying that Spider-Punk and Miles from Across the Spider-Verse were about to arrive over at the Sideshow warehouse. And if I remember correctly, this was after the tariff situation, and yet those guys still managed to make it through. Even when they got released over in Hong Kong about 3 or so weeks prior, 3 to 4 weeks prior. So I was like, okay, I guess it just really depends on what the status of it is in terms of it being on the water or still being port side over there in Hong Kong. So only time will tell. I mean, it looks awesome, and I still holding on to my pre-order because I do like the suit, even though I do have a couple of things to remark here. Some of which will echo what others have said, and then others I feel will kind of deviate. But this is still, I'm looking at the suit and going, yeah, they definitely revised the suit, and quite honestly, the more I see photos of just the suit, it legit looks awesome. I'm definitely happy with the final product of the suit. Keep in mind, I'm being very specific with my words here. The suit, minus that. But here's the thing, that right there, it's one of those cases where it sucks that we're still dealing with this. But outside of Batman, name me a Hot Toys figure that doesn't do that. So it's like, yeah, and you know, on the other hand, we also have to like consider who the hell is the one putting him in these poses. The blogger pics are not exactly the best. Yeah, oh yeah, look, somebody, yeah. What's going on with the god piece? Yeah. But this shot right here, like, there's some people saying that, oh my god, it looks terrible, and I'm like, that's Ben Affleck. The expression is bad. the placement of the eyes is bad, but in terms of the likeness, I see Ben Affleck. I just wish that he looked a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more focused. He just looks like, oh, what is that? And here again, which is a sentiment that like I said, I heard some other people say, and I will echo. Some of which also kind of bleeds onto here, where I think the mouth plates aren't the best. The cowl looks amazing. The body looks amazing. Mouth plate looks alright. Right here it looks a little bit better, especially with the lighting. I think the lighting is favoring it a little bit more. Here he looks a little bit more than in that other shot, but still the expression in and of itself is the one that I look at and go, why did they go with that expression? Maybe the eyes were a little bit changed up. This doesn't look too bad, except maybe the arms look a little clunky. But when we get to something like, we'll get to it. This is, for lack of a better term, this is the money shot. This is the shot being part of the blogger photos, being part of the final product assembly that made me go, okay, I'm still happy I got a pre-order down. I'm still happy I got it, and I'm keeping it, because this is the shot that I look at and I go. I remember Will Fox from the Will Foxification live stream that he did this past Friday. After this guy got, they revealed that this guy finally got released, and the blogger photos went out. He said, I'm paraphrasing here, that this legit looks like a promo shot from the movie. Like, those shots where sometimes they take the actors and put them in costume and in front of a neutral backdrop just to kind of take photos of like costume fittings, but also to later on use for like poster purposes or key art or merchandising or things like that. This looks like that. Legit. With the lighting and the pose, and I'm like, yeah, I'm sold. I'm legitimately sold. Here, like I said, that, if anything, what I think they were trying to replicate his expression from like the ending of the Zack Snyder cut, where he, spoilers, in case you haven't seen the Snyder cut of Justice League, where he has the conversation with Martian Manhunter, and he kind of has like that somber look. I think that's what they were trying to go for, but at the same time, I'm like, then why? Because that's the Zack Snyder Justice League. It's not BvS. He should be looking a bit more, for lack of a better term, antagonizing, because he's meant to be the antagonist to Cavill Superman in that movie. But the actual making of the suit, in my opinion, is good. Like I said, maybe something could be done about that cod piece, but overall, like I said, right here, I'm like, this looks awesome. I think this looks good. The only thing that, like I said, needs refinement are the mouth plates, specifically this one. This mouth plate is terrible. I'm definitely not going to be using it. Thankfully, it's just a mouth plate, but yeah, this right here, this is where I'm like, that was a fail. And I'm curious to see if any past mouth plates could fit into that cowl. It would be a little, I'm sorry if I have to use this term, a little anti-consumer if Hot Toys makes the peg inside of that cowl to fit these mouth plates a little proprietary, because the first, if and when I get this guy in hand, which might be a while, because like I said, right now with my financial situation, Hot Toys figures are being paid off like literally monthly, because I wait for the YouTube check to help pay for those right now. I mean, just recently I finally got the 2.0 Bane from Dark Knight Rises, and that came out like months ago, but I finally got it, I think 2-3 weeks ago, because I've been paying it off month to month, and so this guy's probably going to take another 3 or 4 months to pay off, because like I said, I'm just not in that place. But if and when I get this guy in hand, one of the first things that I would probably want to do is go into my storage unit, grab the Suicide Squad Batman, which I did get like 2-3 years ago in the secondhand market, because that's when I had a regular job and I had some side money to spend, and I went on I think it was Mercari or eBay. Somebody was actually selling a Suicide Squad Hot Toys Batman for a really good deal. I just lucked out. It was a really good deal. I scoured the market to see what the average price of it is being put out there by secondhand sellers, and the guy that I bought it from was offering it a little bit less. just a little bit less, but a little bit. And I was like, deal. So I took it. So I technically still have it, and I'm interested to see if and when I get this guy in hand, getting the mouth plates from that guy and trying to prop him into that cowl and see if it works. Because I'm a little nervous that it won't. And if it doesn't, then we always got Jazzinc. I don't have it pulled up here, but I do believe that Jazzinc himself is actually working on either new mouth plates, or I think he said that the recent tactical suit, the recent plates that he did that are a bit more realistic, will also work on this guy. I might be wrong. Like this shot right here. Look at this. Yeah, like I said, I'm still happy, but some of those mouth plates could use some work. And whoever made these blog photos, yeah, a little strange. And yeah, there's a little softness to the face, like somebody posted this right here. But like I said, to me, my concern has always been the actual decision to go with that expression. It's the fact that they went with an expression that's reminiscent of the Snyder Cut ending, more so than BvS, because I feel like he never made this expression in BvS, and that's my biggest problem. And yeah, like I said, this mouth plate right here, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So I'm definitely not going to be using it. Man, it's packing. Bones. Just looked up the BvS suit and Justice League suit and can instantly point out multiple differences. People are just blind. Yeah, I don't get it when people say that. Yeah, I think it looks like him. I just, like I said, my main problem is the expression. I'm like, why do they go like that? Yeah, this Batfleck looks more like Ben Affleck than the Matt Murdock looks like Charlie Cox. My hot take. That new Born Again Daredevil that Hot Toys revealed last month or the month before, when he has the mask on, fine. The unmasked Charlie Cox sculpt, no. That he looks Latino. What the fuck? Like, am I crazy? Like, there's some people who are like, that's Charlie Cox. And I'm like, what the fuck, it ain't. Like this. And to confirm that I wasn't crazy, I showed my girlfriend, and even she was like, what the fuck is that? And trust me, she loves Charlie Cox. She loves Charlie Cox to the extent of using her hall pass for either Charlie Cox or Tom Hiddleston. And I'm like, you excited for the new Mission film? Are you? I think you meant to say Mission Impossible film. Cause that's the first thing I thought when I read your comment. I'll wait for you to confirm. But something tells me you're asking about the new Mission Impossible. If you are, yes. Even though I will admit, I'm sorry if this sounds a little. What's the word I'm looking for? Bandwagony. But I've seen some impressions and reviews on social media, not from like the major outlets like IGN. I don't give a fuck about what IGN says. Ever since they started giving She-Hulk episodes 9 out of 10s, that's where I was like, I don't trust a single word that you guys say anymore. I'm done. But I saw some other people who I do either follow or have a better head on their shoulders go on Twitter saying that the new Mission Impossible, it has like amazing moments, but then some other clunky moments. And I think the most common comment or remark that I read up online is that the movie's like teetering on almost 3 hours, and the first hour is actually kind of boring. And I'm like, damn, man, like you can't have a whole third of your movie be boring, especially when you're called Mission Impossible. If you were like Oppenheimer, I'd be like, all right, well, maybe it's because of its a slow burn and it rewards at the end. But when you're called Mission Impossible and you're, like I said, teetering on the 3 hour mark, but almost a third of your movie's like kind of paced a little weirdly. And like I said, that's the most common thing I read. Almost everybody was saying that. I was like, okay, I mean, I'm still eager to see it more than most, but it kind of tempered my expectations a little bit. But definitely, if I do go see it in the theater, it's got to be IMAX. I got to see those stunts in IMAX. I can't see it in a regular theater, especially up here where I live. Because the theaters are okay, but it's really the clientele. Let's put it that way. Like, I live in a place where I'm like, I know this is gonna make me sound classist, but I'd rather pay extra in a high income area in those theaters because I know that at least those higher ticket prices will keep that kind of people out. I'm sorry. It's the kind of people where they see cheap movie ticket prices and go, oh, I'm going to go, and still act like they do at home. And I'm like, yeah, I don't got time for that. Fuck off. But I am. I am a fan of the Mission Impossible series. I have seen Dead Reckoning a few months ago. I've seen almost all of them. So this might sound like a cardinal sin, but now that I think about it, I have not seen in its entirety. I've seen like very large chunks, but I've never fully in its entirety seen the original or two. I know I've seen three, but it's been years that I feel like almost like I need to rewatch it again. And for sure, I've seen four. I think I even saw it twice. I've only seen Rogue Nation once, but I know enough about it to know like that's where they started. Well, no, they introduced Jeremy Renner in the fourth one, but it's in the fifth one where it looked like they were trying to make him the main star, but then the reception was like, no, let's keep Tom Cruise, and then that's when we got Fallout, and that introduced Henry Cavill and Angela Bassett. You know, we finally got Dead Reckoning, which was originally going to be part one and part two, and then they did the whole retitling thing, kind of like how they did with Avengers, Infinity War and Endgame, because those two were supposed to be called just Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2, and then they rebranded. So yeah, I'm still eager to see how this one goes out. And like I said, it has to be an IMAX movie, but it's just going to be a matter of scheduling. You know what movie is surprisingly apparently doing well and like reviews are actually pretty good? Fucking Lilo and Stitch. Which is funny because I honestly thought it was going to be another dumpster turd. Because it's, you know, Disney doing another live action remake. Trailer barely came out like a month in advance before the movie came out, and I'm like, it was getting the Ironheart treatment, and even then there was still only one trailer. But apparently, people who went and got early screenings were like, "This is actually not bad." There was a pair of dudes who are super cynical, and they trash almost anything that comes out that's really popular. Like they barely like anything, and one of the guys legit said that he was starting to tear up at the end of this new Lilo and Stitch remake, and I'm like, I'm sorry, what? So, hey. We'll see. We'll see. It might be a good weekend at the movies where you got the adrenaline action for the junkies as far as Mission Impossible, but then for the kids and maybe even for the people who are nostalgic for the original in 2002, was it when it came out? 2002, the original? Lilo and Stitch. I'm just a little bummed that Gantu's not going to be in it. They confirmed that Captain Gantu is not going to be in the movie. But at the same time, well, I don't know. There's a part of me that's bummed. The part of me wants to rationalize it because they're trying to save up on CG because you have to like make them. Or maybe that's their wild card to save for a sequel. They probably thought, okay, the original had a sequel, but it was very gimmicky because they were going through like all the experiments. How about this time, instead of doing that, Gantu's like our main villain, like Joker style is our main villain for like the sequel. I'll be like, it's actually not a bad idea. Why am I developing this headcanon right now? Oh yeah, that's. I'm like, what movie comes out the 30th? Like at the very end of May. There's a movie that comes out at the very end of May. What was it? You just reminded me. The Karate Kid, which looks intriguing. There was a part of me that almost wanted to skip it, not because it didn't look good, but I didn't want to risk. And who knows, it might still happen. But I didn't want to risk Cobra Kai spoilers. Because I still haven't finished Cobra Kai. I've seen the 4 seasons. Seasons 1 through 4. I still haven't seen 5 or all of 6 because apparently 6 is split up into like 3 parts. 5 and 6 are the only seasons of Cobra Kai I've not watched, but I've seen 1 through 4. So I'm not caught up, and I didn't want to risk there being legit Cobra Kai spoilers in the new Karate Kid. But the more I see trailers, the more I'm thinking to myself, I don't think it's gonna matter all that much. I think maybe there'll be a throwaway line by Danielson, Mr. LaRusso, Sensei LaRusso, of why it is that he's here and not overseeing Miyagi-Do. But I think that's gonna be the extent of it. I don't know if any like major characters from the ending of Cobra Kai or whatever the case may be is gonna show up here. I think it's gonna be a little arbitrary. So maybe might not have to worry too much about that. What will kill the movie is if out of fucking nowhere Jaden Smith shows up. I'm like, what the hell is he doing here? Okay. And then the last official topic, even though I still have a bit of a bonus topic at the end, but the last one, you think Jaden Smith will show up? No, realistically, no. It'll be hilarious, but if I was to like bet money, I'll be like, oh, you typed that well, you're getting yeah, I beat you to it. Realistically, though, he's not gonna show up. I feel like Jaden Smith is in that area where he probably, I'm not gonna say regrets, but he just doesn't want to be an actor like his dad like that. He probably wanted to like dip his toe there when he was a kid/teenager, but since then, his behavior that you can kind of see from social media, I'm getting the vibe that he's like, nah, never mind, I don't want to do it. Never mind kind of approach where I'm like, yeah, I don't know what he wants to do, quite honestly. I feel like in the next few years, he's finally gonna iron down like, okay, do I want to be an actor, or do I want to be a rapper, or do I want to be an artist, do I want to do this and that, or clothing, or whatever. It's like, all right, dude. On the bright side, you got the luxury of figuring that out, and plenty of time to do it. Okay, so like I said, the last somewhat topic is that right now, actually, kind of a good segue here. Bringing it down from like the premium stuff down to the stuff that I typically cover, which is Marvel Legends, McFarlane Toys, pretty much anything that's within the general consumer market that we can typically afford to like walk into like a Target or things like that. Something that kind of occurred to me earlier this week / mainly last week was that I was very seldom going out on hunts, and I think one of the things that kind of jump started that in my brain was I can't remember what I was doing. I dropped my girlfriend off somewhere, and I needed to like kill time, and she recommended going on a hunt, and I'm like, well, there's nothing really that I'm hunting for, nothing that I'm looking out. Just recently, some things arrived in the form of some of the reviews that I covered on the channel. Year 1 Batman, Year 1 Gordon in the form of a short. Prior to that, I had the Cowardly Lot Batman and the Justice Lord Batman that hit targets. And technically, it's in the corner over there. I don't know if I want to grab it because it's big. But along with the Cowardly Lot and Justice Lord Batman, I also did find, and I do want to make a video, but it's probably going to be a while because, like I said, some other stuff is coming out that takes a little bit of priority, really. But I found the Batpod and Batman 2-pack gold label Target exclusive from the Dark Knight trilogy. And the main reason for why I wanted that is because I wanted a Christian Bale Batman with a wired cape. Because I never got the platinum version. That was like the Skyhook version, but he had the cowled head and the wired cape. Never found that version. And this Batpod also comes with a few more color accurate paint apps to the movie, and he didn't come bundled with Catwoman. So instead of doing a review, I wanted to do a comparison of that set with like their individual parts. So that video is still coming down the pipeline, but I just got to find the time to finally film it. Because, like I said, every time that I think to myself, oh, I'm finally going to film it this weekend, I get an alert saying something's, shippings. I find something in the store that I wasn't thinking I was going to get, and then there I get it. Not too long ago, a few days ago, I posted a photo that I found the BvS Alfred, the Jeremy Irons Alfred. I found it in store. Gotta be honest, guys, I took that photo, and I was being very cheeky with the caption saying, oh, I'll buy it if you guys watch the review. And I'm glad that a lot of you guys said, we'll definitely watch, and you guys respect that, and I appreciate that. Frankly, though, I still ended up not picking it up. I didn't even grab him from the peg, and I was like, I feel like that's kind of the sign, the spider sense tingle of not being worth it, especially since I don't know how many of you guys have been picking it out, but the prices, even in brick and mortar stores with such major conglomerates like Target, are also needing to raise the prices because of the current situation happening with tariffs right now. I literally look up and it says right there, and I've already covered this on a previous photo. I sent this to my girlfriend when I said that, hey, it looks like, my time to put this sort of endeavor as far as hunting and prioritize on catching up on older reviews, on stuff that's on the review backlog, is coming near, where I'm like, okay, I need to stop getting stuff and start just whittling down on the covering part, on the reviewing part. Because now I'm looking at these price tags inside of Targets, and now they're up by about roughly somewhere between $1 to $3. That Jeremy Irons figure was a standard DC Multiverse figure. It's not a collector's edition. It's not a gold. Well, no, it's not a gold label. It's not a Build-A-Figure. It's a standard figure, and yet it's not $22.99 anymore. It's $23.99. And then sometimes in other vendors and other online stores or brick and mortar stores like GameStop, at a GameStop not too long ago, I found Cowboy Batman, which I still don't have, and I generally do want to get. I saw him, I thought, oh yeah, he looks kind of neat, he looks kind of cool. And lo and behold, I had a physical reaction. I'm partially exaggerating, but I had like a jolt in my body that kind of backed me up a little bit. And I'm like, wow, did I really just do that? When I looked up and I saw that GameStop is now charging $26.99 for that Cowboy Batman, which is a standard DC Multiverse figures. Again, it's not a Build-A-Figure, it's not a collector's edition, it's a standard figure with only one or two accessories, and it's $26.99? 26, and after taxes $30? I didn't get him, especially since I technically already have a pre-order for him at the McFarlane Toy Store, which is a whole almost $10 cheaper because I used the coupon code. And to this day, and again, I'm still a little befuddled by the fact that it's still awaiting fulfillment over at the McFarlane Toy Store, but I'm finding it physically in GameStop, so I'm kind of looking at McFarlane like, guys, what's going on? Like, how can it be awaiting fulfillment, and yet when I go to my local GameStop, there's Cowboy Batman right there. And the only reason why I didn't get him is two things. One, $26.99, it's a little difficult to rationalize for just a standard figure that's not collector's edition or a Build-A-Figure or a gold label exclusive or whatever the case may be. But on top of that, I used a $10 coupon at the McFarlane Toy Store for my unit that I pre-ordered over there, bringing the subtotal to just $20 flat, and that includes the shipping and the taxes. So I'm like, $20 versus $30. I'm like, I might as well just wait on that. I literally was like, I already got a pre-order here that's gonna be almost a third cheaper. Just, and you have so many figures to cover back at home. I have a lot of reviews that I'm overdue for. Just focus on that. So yeah, and that also led me to leaving the BvS Alfred. It led me to leaving the patina or bronze gold 89 Batman, which I did find. I don't know if any of you guys know, but apparently there's a platinum chase variant of the Keaton Batman floating around in Targets right now. That's basically Keaton Batman, but he's like all bronze gold, or like sometimes they call it patina, where it's like brownish reflective kind of gold. It looked cool, but A, doesn't have accessories, and B, this would be my fourth time having this guy, and I'm like, I can't do it. I really can't do it. It looks cool, but trust me, I've covered this figure already a number of times to the point where if I get this guy, I don't think I'm even gonna take him out of the box. He'll be like a collector's item in my collection. And right now, with my financial instability, I'm like, I have to leave it. I have to leave it, and I left it. It hurts because of the the FOMO. The FOMO was severely kicking in, but I was like, I can't do it. I have to be a responsible here now, or at least partially responsible, because I did, at this second target where I found once again BvS Jeremy Irons Alfred, that patina bronze gold Batman, which, like I said, both of those I left because, like I said, I had to be rational and left them because I still couldn't be motivated to pick up that Alfred, knowing that it's just the Joker body from the jail cell set, only with a different head, and they didn't even cover up the sleeves. The only thing that you're really getting him for is the apron and the accessories. Some people online said that that's a good Jeremy Irons likeness. I gotta be honest, I don't see it. It's like a caricature, but still, I don't think it was like the strongest representation out of McFarlane. But again, that's McFarlane. They've always kind of had some iffiness when it comes to like real life actors, real life portrayals, live action portrayals. But then I saw a third figure, and then this third figure is the one that I saw. Okay, if I'm walking away with something, it's this guy. And I actually have him over here. Let me grab him. Final suit Riddler from Batman Forever. This is the guy that when he started to show up on social media and people were reporting that, oh, he's out there, and some people were having in-hand photos of him overseas, I was like, yeah, no, I need this guy. Yeah, he's just different enough that he does warrant picking up, to the point where that's actually a new head sculpt, hair and expression. And the cane is different. Well, mostly different. I think the rod is the same, but then this front piece, top piece right here, is sculpted differently. And it's actually not bad looking. And then, of course, you got the sheen on the suit that I'm like, I'm actually kind of like walking out of the store. I actually did feel comfortable buying this. I wouldn't have felt comfortable getting the bronze 89 Batman, or even that Jeremy Irons, that BvS Alfred. I wouldn't have. But just this guy by himself, I was like, actually kind of, and he'll definitely be unboxed, and I'll do a short on him. Not a full review, but a short. And I actually got the original Riddler over there so I can make comparisons. But he'll definitely be a short, and I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I like this. This one I did like. So I was like, all right. I didn't walk away empty-handed. But, oops, sorry, I bumped the desk there. But this cool situation about like leaving certain McFarlanes behind, it also, and along with the lack of hunts, it kind of just brought up in me this whole like notion of how quiet McFarlane Toys has been recently. Like, I don't know, is it just me, or let me be a little bit specific here. How quiet McFarlane has been with the DC Multiverse line, because even earlier this year when we had things like Cowboy Batman, Year One Batman, Justice Lord Batman, Cowardly Lot version, outside of those guys, they were also kind of revealed to us very sporadically. Like the Year One stuff was back in the McFarlane Toy Show. Cowardly Lot was kind of posted as what appeared to be a GameStop exclusive at first, and then over time they kind of removed that branding and said, no, it's going to be spread across different retailers, including Target. I think it's even showing up at some Walmarts or some Best Buys. So I was like, all right, I guess it's not really that much of exclusive to begin with. And now I feel like for weeks, I think we're maybe coming up on a month or so, it's been kind of quiet on DC Multiverse overall. And I'm hoping that, I'm trying to remain optimistic and say that maybe this is a sign that they're simply just, as the kids like to say, cooking. They're cooking up something. Bones, you just brought up. McFarlane needs to hurry up. I need a little penguin army. I'm hoping that maybe they're kind of shying away from the reveals so that they can focus and have all hands on deck for the Superman stuff, for the James Gunn Superman stuff, and then for that Batman Returns wave. And I'm hoping that they're just shying away from promoting stuff, marketing material for new reveals, new prototypes, and just focusing on the mass QC handling of these upcoming things, especially the stuff that is kind of light, obligatory behind a contract in case would be the Superman stuff. Some of which is actually already starting to hit the market, or at least hit overseas, with some people already reporting some in-hand photos. I actually have, let me see if I could scroll back up to where it's supposed to be. And technically it's not in hand. It could be considered in hand, but not really. They're more like very, physical close-ups. This is courtesy of Twitter account In Pursuit of Toys, where they have photos from the licensing expo, which is specifically to make sure that licenses are getting done right as far as like merchandising, action figures, collectibles, stuff like that. And on that licensing expo, which is mainly for like the business side of things rather than for for like the general, public or collecting public, they did have the James Gunn Superman McFarlane stuff. So here you have the theatrical edition, deluxe edition of that Superman, him in box with the 3 faceplates, 4 really, the hands, and then Crypto. I am a little concerned that there's some faceplates here that don't look like they're even that terribly different from the standard one, so it kind of begs the question as to why it is that we even need those faceplates to begin with. And I'm not really out of water. I got another one over here. The laser face makes perfect sense, but those last 2 over there, I'm like, I barely see any difference. It looks like one of them maybe has the eyes off to the right a little bit like this, but then the middle one, for example, this one right here, maybe it looks just a tinge aggressive, but it's a very marginal difference. And whenever you do like different head sculpts or different faceplates in this case, you need to give us an incentive to do the whole swapping mechanism, because if this is how marginal the differences are, I don't feel the need for it. Even a bigger detriment is not including more hand accessories, because you got the flying hands here, but then by default he's gonna have 1 fist and 1 open. It's a deluxe theatrical edition. There needs to be another fist and another open for the opposite hands over here. That way we have 1, 2, 3 pairs. It's a deluxe theatrical edition, of which is nearing $40 in the market. If you put down a pre-order for this guy, he goes for $37.99. It should come with an additional set of hands. No offense, buddy, I would sacrifice Crypto for some more hands. Yeah, like, I understand that that's a cloth cape back there, and it's meant to have like this deluxe packaging, but ultimately it's what's inside the packaging that's gonna count a little bit more. And yeah, I'm a little trepidatious about the deluxe edition here of the new Superman figure, especially when the face, it doesn't look bad. It resembles Corn Sweat, but it's doing that thing that McFarlane has been criticized by me and many other people, which is that they go for this like caricature approach, to where it's like a Mad Magazine portrayal of the actor, where it's like, yeah, it's resembling the actor, but a very exaggerated, cartoony version of that actor. And then somebody, nose messed up already. Normally only flea market figures have this. Yeah, I can tell that somebody dropped it. In which case, I'm like, why would you take a photo of it with it falling over? Because you can see that his nose is fine over here. But then over here, so it must have dropped. Somebody must have knocked it over or something. But yeah, not just for Superman, but also they had in-hand photos of Lex Luthor. With the suit, the purple suit. I don't know why he's got a purple suit. The alternate hands. Now, this is Lex Luthor, so it's fine only having 1 extra hands. But with Superman, I feel like he needed an extra one. Extra 2 pairs. The different heads. You can't do a faceplate here because he's bald, so you're going to have that ugly seam peeping. So at least included that, and then the baby kaiju. Hopefully that's not in and of itself a spoiler there, including that, but yep, that is included. And again, it's going for that caricaturish approach to Nicholas Hoult. And again, a little marginal, but at least this one's got the smile, and then this one's got the side-eye view, I guess. And speaking of the licensing expo and more Batman or BvS related stuff, Beast Kingdom is coming out with their own figures for that specific. It's funny how now out of nowhere we have more and more companies simply continuing to go with BvS because they know how much of a lull there is right now with the DCU that they're like, well, go back to BvS. And so now we got the Nightmare Batman here with like a cloth fabric coat right there, trench coat for the Nightmare suit, as well as the pants, it looks like. Yeah, Beast Kingdom is strange because every so often there's a figure like this that actually does not look bad, even though the coat is looking a little on the poofy side, so it's gonna require a little bit of futzing, but that's not terrible. But then we get this, and I'm like, yeah, that's looking a little lanky and disproportionate, and gotta be honest, kind of ugly. And on top of that, you're losing a lot of resemblance to Affleck there. He has a very distinct mouth and cheekbones and cheeks here on the side that I'm like, that looks like anyone that's just simply not Affleck. And then poor Henry Cavill, I just looking a little jointy, losing a little bit of musculature, and he just looks bored. Hopefully, like I said, and they do make it clear that these are prototypes, so hopefully by the time that they get released, they get a little bit of refinement, because the Nightmare Batman actually doesn't look too bad, except for, like I said, the trench coat needs a little bit of futzing. But the other two, they definitely need some heavy work. Some major heavy work on that. So, yeah, you got the IG Bruce took some Ozempic. The Baby Mustang. Crypto had a nibble. Oh, from the nose. Well, here's the thing, Bones. The only little slack, I use the quote terms a little bit right there, with Superman is that I noticed that it's gonna probably suffer something similar to, and this one kind of sucked because it was very near and dear to me, considering that I'm a bigger Batman fan than I am a Superman fan. But I feel like this Superman wave, whether it be the deluxe editions of those figures or not, is going to suffer something similar to the Pattinson Batman wave back in 2022 because of one common denominator. They're licensed figures that are tied to a very specific set-in-stone movie release. Which means that behind the scenes, McFarlane had a very large deadline to put these figures out. All right, it was a WB deadline, not a McFarlane deadline. Most of the time, when it comes to figures like Year One Batman, Cowboy Batman, when they get revealed, that figure probably has already been finalized, and they just have to like mass produce it. When it came to these Superman figures, this might be a bit of a hot take, but I feel like they just barely finalized them. Even when those promo pics went up and the pre-orders were launched, especially the way that those pre-orders were even handled to begin with, because I thought that they were going to like tease them and then give you a date of when you can pre-order, but then pre-orders went live literally that morning, and hence I missed out. I feel like that was more WB talking than it was McFarlane talking, if I'm being completely honest. That's how the language read to me. And that's why, because the movie is coming out, sure, McFarlane is handling it, but at the same time, I feel like they had less time, just like they did with the Pattinson Batman figures. And the Pattinson Batman figures, I mean, look how long it took to get a much more definitive version of that Pattinson Batman. It was not in that wave that came out in 2022. It was in the Ultimate Movie 6-pack version, where they fixed the eyes, they gave him the symmetrical hands, and he had a cloth cape. He still wasn't perfect, but he was an upgrade. Whereas the original standalone release had the ugly cape, he had the side eye, some of the tooling around the arms was a little strange, and then he came with one hand like this and one hand like this, because he needed to have the gadget to be planted on here for the grapple. And then don't get me started on the Drifter head sculpt and the Penguin figure that, I gotta be honest, look kind of ugly. But that's because out of all those, he probably had to look at all of them and be like, okay, which one's obviously going to sell more? Batman. Do we pay attention to these other guys? No, but we have to make them because WB said that we need to make them in order to compensate and to meet whatever kind of, standards or obligations were made in that contract when WB said, you guys are making the Pattinson Batman figures, right? And I feel like the same thing is happening with the Superman movie here. So you're going to expect a little bit of that brunt with these theatrical editions. Which is why I feel like when the theatrical editions of the Batman Returns wave comes out, because there's no Batman Returns re-release or anything catering to that, I think he can take his time with that a little bit more. And I think, to play devil's advocate and be completely fair across the board, that could explain the silence as to what I was remarking about before, about McFarlane being a little bit on the quiet side, considering that recently there hasn't really been all that many DC Multiverse reveals, and when there have been, they've been a little, I don't want to say sporadic, but just, like I said, let me go down the feed here on their X/Twitter. Let me see. When was the last time a Batman was revealed? A Batman. Let's be specific here with Batman. Let's go down the feed together. I almost don't even want to count this because it's just a pre-existing figure given the Frostbite treatment, which is the Batman and Robin Frostbite edition. Alright, yeah, we have Cyborg. That's DC Multiverse related. This was, what, April 29th? We're coming up on a month. We had these, but these are the Super Friends. They're 6-inch, less articulation. I'm talking about DC Multiverse. Again, almost doesn't count because it's a pre-existing figure just given the Frostbite. This is just a promo photo by a customer. Again, this wasn't a reveal. This was already revealed. They're just reiterating that's in store now. In stores now. In stores now. Select retailers. The Hardak wave from animated series. In stores now. There's that Superman wave. And I'm talking about reveal, not pre-orders going live. These are still just pre-orders going live. Okay, I guess here we go. Here we go. Let me stop. This wave with Hal Jordan armor suit, Eradicator, and I think that wave also had Cowboy Batman. Yeah. April 11th. Cowboy Batman, April 11th. And then right before that was the Year One stuff. Yeah, Year One and then Alfred. I think that was the last time there was a Batman reveal. We're not talking about pre-orders launches. We're not talking about like the restatements of like, oh, it's in stores now. No, we're talking about reveal. Like we didn't know about it before. Maybe there were some leaks. Maybe there was one quick slide over at WonderCon or a convention of sorts. But when it comes to like this official like, hey, pre-orders on this date, that's what I'm talking about. And I'm talking about Batman. Now, if we are to consider DC Multiverse overall, and even then, like I said, there's still some caveats, there's still some asterisks. It would be technically, hold on, before we get to all that. Again, a figure that was already revealed, Cyborg Superman, only this time the gold label all red edition. That's coming soon to stores. Not even technically available for pre-order. It's just going to be in stores for target hunting. So yeah, it's been quiet. It's been quiet. Now, to give them a little bit of credit, they've been handling, like I said, the Marvel statue stuff. Recently, the pre-orders went live for this new wave that has Beast, Carnage, and Thing. However, again, it's a little muddy considering that the pre-order launches for May 21st today. But the same day that these pre-orders go live, I also see people already posting hunt videos of finding them in stores. So, you know, it'd be nice to get, like I said, a little bit of transparency. In terms of a recent pre-order that I did think was kind of cool, the pre-orders for the Doom: The Dark Ages Slayer did go live in introducing us to a brand new class of action figures within the McFarlane Toys brand, not catered to DC, but rather just McFarlane Toys as a whole, Elite Edition. So, this is the Elite Edition Slayer. Pre-orders have been available now for coming up on about a week, May 15th. And people made their voices very, very, very clear that they do, in fact, want to check this guy out. Why? Because it's practically sold out almost everywhere. And thank God I acted fast, because there was a feeling in me that I was like, let me put down a pre-order at least through like BBTS or Entertainment Art that doesn't charge right away, just to cover my bases that morning. And I did, and thank God that I did, because look at that. Pre-order sold out over at BBTS, sold out at Entertainment Earth, sold out. I didn't pre-order through MTS because even though it looks cool, it's not going to be covered on the channel right away unless circumstances change. But right now, the plan is not really to cover this guy immediately. Like I said, I prioritize Batman and Spider-Man. But hey, look, comes out on my birthday month. Sold out on the McFarlane Toy Store. Still available at GameStop. But, you know, it's GameStop we're talking about. And it doesn't come out until 2027. I don't know why they're doing this. It's definitely a glitch, but because there's other figures that have this thing going on where they're, I think it's definitely a placeholder where they like shove the date to like a year and a half out, and I'm like, why are you guys doing that? But it's unrealistic. It doesn't make sense. It's like, okay. Sold out at Walmart. Even Walmart is sold out. I want to believe that it's also sold out at Best Buy. And definitely sold out on Amazon. So, yeah. And it definitely looks cool. I do like that, you know, the whole selling point of the Doomslayer is that he's going to have the 22 points of articulation. It keeps saying... Hold on, actually. Let's switch to this. Let's switch to this, because what does this mean? The very first McFarlane Elite Edition action figure... Incredibly detailed sculpt with premium paint applications. Okay, we'll see what that constitutes of. Because when you paint over the joints, sometimes those joints can get a little tough to move. 22 points for full range of posing designed with ultra articulation. Okay. Includes soft goods faux fur cape. So it's going to have like that feathery kind of hair to kind of simulate fur on the cape. That'll be intriguing. 2 alternate hands. I feel like we should have an extra set of hands, not just 2, should be 4. Display base with 4 elite weapons: the pulverizer, flail, combat shotgun, and shield saw. Pulverizer, flail, combat shotgun, shield saw. There's a 5th weapon that I think should also be in there. A 5th and possibly even 6th weapon. Just in case, I won't say what those weapons are because they might be spoilery. Not because of the story. It's not really a story spoiler, but more so like a gameplay spoiler where you're like, oh, I got this now. I'm not going to say what it is, but there's a weapon that even I'm like, I think that should be in here. Okay, let me keep reading. Includes an Elite Points card and a collectible art card. Elite Points can be used to redeem incredible rewards and one-of-a-kind prototypes. Featured in McFarlane Elite Edition window boxing with gold foil accents. So here they try to hype up and glaze the packaging, where it's like part of the whole concept of Elite Edition is that it comes in some nice packaging. Okay, cool, but that should always be like a bonus. It shouldn't really be a product feature. I'm sorry, but hot take, packaging should not be a product feature. It should just be like what it is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if I was running a toy company, and I'm doing like a prestige edition or elite edition, yeah, I'll make the packaging very, very nice, but I'm not gonna list it in the bullet points for the features. I gotta be honest. It's about the optics. That to me, it's like, okay, well, you're trying to tell me that that's where the money goes, and even if it is, it shouldn't show in the bullet points. I would cut this part out where it's like, oh, window box packaging with the full accents. It's the equivalent of seeing very, very those, you know, those menus on those fine dinings, and they call something it's like saying that the plate, the porcelain on the plate looks nice when we bring it out on a menu, and I'm like, that's great, but tell me about the food. That's what I'm eating. I'm not eating the plate. At least you get quite a few weapons. At least I kind of disagree. I feel like there should be a 5th weapon. Yeah, for $60, I'm like, it needs an extra set of hands and at least one more weapon. Now, the Slayer himself does look pretty nice. I haven't pulled up over here. Yeah, the figure itself, I do like the look. Here's the box. The art on the box does look nice. I like that they went with the premium edition art style as opposed to the standard edition cover of the game. Elite edition in fat lettering there on the side, and on the window's going to be over there in the back. There's the weapons. There's the pulverizer with the little skull. That's going to be nice. But see, look, the 2 holding hands, and then we just get the fist and another open hand over here, and I'm like, there should be another set of hands right here, just right here. There's the combo shotgun, flail, shield. There's one other weapon that I think should be in there. There's one other weapon, but like I said, just in case, this should be in there, in my opinion. But at least, like I said, the detailing on the suit, the helmet, the color apps does look pretty nice. I like the weather. It kind of feeds into what McFarlane likes to do with like an awful lot of the horror stuff, Spawn stuff, the Warhammer stuff that we're tackling. So this kind of feeds into that, and it's within their wheelhouse. The faux fur coat or a cape on the back does look pretty nice. Like I said, it kind of gives it a little bit sense of presence. Like that right there. Actually does look pretty nice. But this also begs the question, what is with this elite system? Right? That it's kind of introducing. So if you navigate up here, we actually do have... Actually, here we go. This is introducing us to the Elite Edition. Included in the box of every McFarlane Elite Edition product will be one of 4 different tiered rewards cards. Each card contains elite points that can be used to redeem for incredible rewards. Common, uncommon, rare, epic. 50 points, 300 points, prototype, autograph prototype. Now, as far as I can deduce, the prototypes are basically gonna be those unpainted sculpts that you sometimes see at like trade shows or conventions or anything like that. So apparently, if I were to get this Doomslayer and I pull out the Elite Edition card, and on it I scratch it off and it says prototype, that means that I can go online and go into their store whenever that Elite page finally goes live, put in the code and be like, hey, this is the prototype figure you're getting. Hit the button and type in your address, and that's where we're shipping it to. And it'll transact similarly to a regular transaction, as if you were buying a figure, but of course it's using the code to get it for $0. Cool. And I'm understanding that autograph prototype, pretty self-explanatory, same exact thing, only it's going to be autographed probably by Todd himself. He's going to sign it, send it off. The points is where I'm like, okay, are those points going to be for just the traditional rewards, redeemables that they got going on right there, or is it for something separate? That's where my questions go. Stay tuned for the next McFarlane Toy Show to learn all about the Elite Rewards program. More details to follow. So, from what I can tell, they're putting together another McFarlane Toy Show episode, probably as we speak. Only time will tell when they're going to schedule it and tell us exactly what's going down. Because as of right now, like I said, the last stuff that they're talking about is the new statues going live for Thing, for Black Panther, for this new Spider-Man, which, like I said, I've already seen some people post photos of it in store. So the fact that pre-orders are going live for it barely right now, I'm like, okay. And Carnage, which this Carnage does look cool. I don't like that it's 1/10 though. I wish it was 1/6. It would be badass as 1/6, but it is what it is. And that's really about it. So yeah, McFarlane's been awful quiet when it comes to traditional DC stuff. But like I said, I'm trying to remain as optimistic as possible in hopes that maybe it's simply there just to kind of let us know that they're cooking. Let us know that hopefully they're focusing on Superman because there is a bit of a contractual obligation there since you have a little movie tied in with it, set to release July 11th. So naturally, I think by now you would want some of those figures to start showing up in stores, pre-orders to get shipped out, and then worry about the Batman Returns stuff. And then naturally, I expect them to have some reveals maybe batched up in to get to just maybe potentially deliver a massive bomb come Comic-Con time. Because last Comic-Con, WonderCon, those are like staple events that make no sense for them unless something very detrimental happens to the company, which I'm foreshadowing a little bit here, not to McFarlane but to others. Unless something heavy like that happens, it would be very detrimental to McFarlane in and of themselves to skip out on a massive event like Comic-Con. So I'm expecting them to have a panel at Comic-Con, to have some kind of event where they can kind of maybe showcase some of these new reveals and new things to tell people like, hey, we're working on this, spread the news, bam, there it is. And you'll get like stuff like recently I covered with WonderCon where I showed pictures and videos of those panels. I hit social media. That's where we got our reveal for the Batman Returns stuff, a handful of other stuff. So hopefully we'll get that, but maybe magnified a little bit extra because this is the summertime. This is Comic-Con. It's probably going to be a little bit hefty, and I'm hoping that that's what they're working out right now, and that explains why they've been quiet. Have you heard of the bootleg Batman Hush coming out? What do you mean bootleg, Pretzel? By the way, welcome to the stream. You don't eat your plate unless it's one of those soups like from Panera or whatever where they put it in a physical bread bowl. That's awesome. Well, it's awesome, but it does come with a major caveat, a major problem, which is that over time your bowl is literally sogifying to the point where it's going to start leaking, so you better eat quick, so you're forced to eat it quick. And I don't like eating quick, so yeah. But yeah, I'm hoping that I'm trying to be optimistic and saying that that's probably what McFarlane is doing. And also maybe by circumstance, by proxy, they're also a little bit nervous to not reveal too much, not knowing how the market is, in what direction the market's going on right now, especially with the tariff stuff. Because right now, we're seeing something come to pass that I was calling and predicting, but still nonetheless hoping that I was wrong about. I was hoping to be wrong, but unfortunately it looks like I'm not being wrong about this. Which is that even if the tariff stuff alleviates or gets fixed overnight, there's going to be like this domino effect for certain companies that are going to get hit, and they're going to get hit hard. And we're seeing it happen. And it's funny because just recently, didn't they lighten up on the tariffs a little bit? Like they reduced it a little bit. They're still in effect, but they're not as bad as they were before, and they're negotiating. But even then, I'm like, yeah, but this is still happening long enough for certain companies that aren't the major power players like McFarlane, Hasbro, Mattel to get hit to the point where either they go out of business or they practically get amputated. Case in point, Super 7. Some of you may have seen this already. Put out a statement saying that they had to lay a ton of people off. And here's the thing. Just like this comment is pointing out, both can be true. It's a multi-variable problem where it's both the tariffs that then expedited something that was already kind of leaning there for certain companies. In the case of Super 7, I did hear that they've been having some quality control problems even before the whole tariff stuff happened. Like tracing back to I think 2-3 years ago, they were Super 7 was in some hot water with some figures like breaking right out of the box and stuff like that. But the tariff stuff kind of expedited that. It kind of, just like COVID expedited so many people within like the retail industry and fast food industry going, hey, this is bullshit. We don't need this. You know, people treating customer service and hospitality people like shit. It finally woke people up. You know, that's the true woke, to be like, during COVID, to be like, I don't need this. I'm better than this. And dropping the jobs. And that's why the quality of food went down. The quality of service went down. Now we're seeing that kind of happening again within the action figure community, within the toy community, with certain companies like Super 7, where they were able to kind of, you know, go unseen, go a little hidden like this with the whole quality control stuff. But then this whole tariff situation, just like I said, expedites and fast forwards things to the point where now they have to lay people off. Like, their statement says that 6 months prior to this whole tariff stuff happening, Super 7 apparently was doing well in terms of money. They were doing just fine. And then literally the tariffs just punched them in the face. To where, at the peak where it escalated to 145%, effectively shut our business down, bringing new inventory, leaving the factory to zero, compounded by massive turnover on pre-orders. This week's change in tariff to 30% is still a massive increase to this industry that requires significant change to work within. I called it, where I'm like, yeah, even if they lower it or get rid of the tariffs, it just happened long enough to where maybe, like I said, the big guys like Hasbro, Mattel, McFarlane, even Spin Master, what's another big one? Those aren't really the big ones. But right underneath that, you're going to have companies that are probably going to survive, but they're going to be, like I said, amputated by having to cut off so much workforce. And then underneath that, you're going to have some much more intimate teams that handle a couple of things here and there that could probably are either going to have to take a massive hit, release licenses, or God forbid, within the collectible toy shop, mom and pop toy shop market, they might have to shut down. You know, like I said, there's a couple here in Southern California that ever so often I like to go into and check them out. And I'm thinking to myself, are they okay? Are they okay? So this was Super 7's statement. And then literally early today, I found this article. Diamond Select is out. Diamond Select Toys is done. This broke just a few days ago. And it's funny that this got relayed over to me. This is over at Bleeding Cool News. Diamond Select Toys has been shut down following Ad Palupum's acquisition of Diamond Comic Distributors, which I knew that they bought Diamond Comic Distributors, and I thought to myself, okay, so that includes Diamond Select Toys, the comic aspect of Diamond, all that stuff. So okay, so you know they're saved, but I'm like, no, half saved. They're taking the comic stuff, the comic distributor stuff. They're shuttering the toys. They're like, yeah, one's got to go, and they're like, we got to let go of the toys. I spoke too soon. And I knew about Diamond Select Toys, and there were even a handful that I thought to myself, I like that looks kind of cool. Maybe, oh God, it makes me wonder, like, how many Diamond Select figures that you can find at collectible trade shows like Frankenstein's or whatever are about to just spike the hell up. Because they shut down. Shut them down. I have only one Diamond Select figure. It's a Deadpool from the comics. He's right up there. He's too dusty. I'm not going to get him down. But there was a part of me that kind of wanted to kind of, you know, increase a little bit of my Diamond Select collection. Now I'm kind of scared to do so because this shit's about to blow up. Because they're done. They're gone. And there you go, Christian. There's an ad there for Mission Impossible. Yeah, Mario posted to social media about what he heard. So yesterday, new owners took ownership of the company. I spent many years helping build into the giant they became. And yesterday, the restructuring began. They aren't putting out press releases or anything of that nature as to who was let go. So it's industry websites, social media, and direct questions to those I can ask. Now, as a reminder, while I worked there for 29 years, I've been gone for 16. So there are plenty of big names of the company that I didn't even know. I do know the subsidiary Diamond Select Toys was shut down yesterday and all staff let go. At least 3 of them are guys I know very well, all having worked there for over 20 years. I have heard that Steve Leaf was among the people let go in purchasing. Steve would be the last surviving purchasing member that I brought into the department, so that's especially hard for me. Diamond Select Toys and Collectibles was founded in 1999 by Diamond Comic Distributors to create collectibles for adult collectors and has since licensed a variety of pop culture properties. Bleeding Cool. Yeah. And it's funny because for a little while there were rumors going around that McFarlane wanted to buy them, but he since then shut down the rumors, and obviously after Ad Populum stepped in, those rumors were pretty much, put in the graveyard. So, but we were still thinking, okay, so they're gonna keep Diamond around. Half, like Two-Face said, half. The comic distributor stuff, sure, but nah, we couldn't say the same thing for toys, and that hurts me. That really does hurt me. So yeah, we're not out of the woods yet, guys. We're not. We can literally wake up tomorrow and get a headline saying that the tariffs have been lifted. I'm still going to think to myself, we're still going to be probably a month out before we stop seeing headlines of certain companies getting affected, and me going on Instagram and finding out that one of the places that I like to go to here in Southern California shuts down and is clearancing their stuff out. And then going over to brick and mortar stores like Target and Walmart, I'm going to see there and trying to get a goddamn simple Marvel Legends is going to be $30. Getting a McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse that's not a collector's edition or Build-A-Figure is going to be $27, $28, almost the 30. And I'm just going to be like, I'm getting priced out. I'm getting priced out. And that, like I said, combined with so many reviews that I'm in and of itself behind on myself over here, I'm like, yeah, the time to hit the pause button is getting sooner and sooner and sooner, and priorities are gonna have to fluctuate to the point where I'm like, could it be possible that at one point there is gonna have to be a pause button, not just on the hunting but also on the channel as well, since I'm like, well, I mean, unless I get a job that's just that lucrative enough that I can be like, oh yeah, I'll be fine. Until that time comes, I don't know, man. I don't know. Hopefully companies can recover. This tariff stuff is rough. Glad I don't live in it. Where do you live, Bones? I mean, I envy you. I really do. I swear, if you say Canada, because usually that's what I hear is Canada. But even then, isn't Canada also getting like screwed over in some other? Like ever so often, I see collectors in the toy community that are Canadians and they pre-order stuff through like GameStop Canada, Amazon Canada, and then they show off how much that Canadian dollar influx is, and I'm like, god damn, that's not even, I don't feel like that's any better. UK, yeah, I still sympathize because I think that you're correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you're better when it comes to the prices, but stock, inventory, or select like figures take like even longer to reach UK. You know what I'm saying? Like I can go to the store and buy some chance if I find the new James Gunn Superman figure in store right now. You guys are probably gonna have to wait until the movie actually comes out in July to even find the figures. So yeah, I still, sympathize in that regard, because I hear from a lot of UK collectors that they have to take even longer to get their stuff. Oh god. Oh, need a stretch. I'm definitely gonna have to step up, get up, and stretch after I end this, which I'm coming up on the end here. Oh. Trying to crack my back here. Also, I still haven't opened this up. I need to open this, because I definitely want to see, should the licensing with DC and McFarlane fall through, I want to see what McFarlane can truly do with a different license outside DC in a premium format like this. The fact that we have the 5-panel box, all the goodies in there. I want to see what he's all about with stuff like this. And I definitely want to cover on the channel to see how it does. Unfortunately, I don't live anywhere near a toy store, so everything I want has to come from online. Waiting for year one Batman. He has to hurry up. Yeah, see? Now, if it makes you feel any better, Bones, I still have not found year one Batman physically in store. I got my unit from the McFarlane toy store when he shipped a couple weeks back. But actually, like, physically finding it at a Walmart, I still haven't. So, I see posts, I see photos, but at the same time, I'm not seeing him as frequent as I think he should be by this point within my area, if that makes any sense. And platinums, you need to be fast and checking websites like so much. Yeah, like don't you have to check? Obviously, Big Bad Toy Store every so often has platinums like on a separate page, but they upcharge it to like $40. But you also have to check out what is it? Store, CMD something, CMD store. What the hell is this? Oh, that's weird. I was like, why is Metaphor ReFantazio trending out of nowhere? It's some sweepstakes. Random. I am paying American ship prices like it's like 20. Yeah, like I said, they upcharge the shit out of that. Oh, this is cool. Is this new? When is this coming out? Well, it's cool. I don't know if I'm actually gonna get them, but I appreciate the novelty. They're making the Spin Master is making like Kenner style figures for the 1978 and 1980 sequel Richard Donner Superman movies. Look at that. This is kind of cute. I like this. I don't think I'll get it, but I just like the fact that they're making them. Look at this. You have Jor-El in both the white and black suits, Lex Luthor with the wig, and the newspaper, Lois, Zod, complete with the little mirror, the Phantom Zone thing, and then of course Superman himself, complete with the Kryptonite necklace. These are cute, like to the point where if I was a Kenner guy growing up, I would buy these and probably not even open them, just like box them up. Cool. Yeah, I like the approach to this. I missed out on year 2 platinum. Would be a nice kit bash. Props and replicas and the whole shebang are the only 2 UK websites. Platinums. Yeah. Yeah, speaking of year 2, we're coming up on like the last third of May. And that year 2 Batman from BBTS, there's still no word on it. This guy? Gonna get delayed again? Because I think he was like scheduled for April, and now it's like May. No, it's still not out there. Same thing with the white and blue Grim Knight. Although there's a part of me that kind of wants to cancel this one. This guy. Part of me wants to cancel, but at the same time, I'm like, it does look cool. It's one of those things where I'm like, let me see what happens in the next week, because this past Friday I had a job interview that went well. There's potential, so I want to see what happens with that. So yeah. All right, I'm getting hot in here. Let's take off all of my clothes, and I'm gonna go ahead and start heading out here, guys. We definitely had a lot of lurkers in the stream today, so appreciate you all for tuning in. But for those of you who managed to drop a chat, Bones, Christian Corbett's, Spec Ops Labs, and who was it? Pretzel. Thank you guys for commenting and keeping the chat alive. But for those of you who majorly lurked, I appreciate you guys nonetheless. But you guys can hear it. I'm starting to lose my voice, starting to get a little hungry. And at the same time, I want to start putting the finishing touches on the video that's going to be going up tomorrow morning, and get to some more reviews and editing. And like I said, maybe a little later on, get to some Doomed Dark Ages and further play that. Apart from that, though, guys, appreciate you for watching. Thank you, and I'll see you guys. I don't know when, but I definitely had a full docket here of things to talk about. And so I finally got those out of my system. I guess the next stream, I would like for it to be next week, but at the same time, it really depends. Like I said, one of the things that we had to talk about here at the end. Oh, Jason's Electric, welcome. there you were. One of the things that I wanted to tackle in the stream was the fact that McFarlane has been so quiet in regards to DC Multiverse. But who knows if things will, unless we enter next week and then bam, 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 a bunch of reveals, I'll be like, well. Or if they announce the new McFarlane Toy Show episode, we'll probably be, reacting to that, watching that, discussing that. But only time will tell. If nothing happens, then maybe no live stream, and I'll just focus on getting things edited. I got more figure reviews, some of which are already in the can. They just need to be edited. Some need to be filmed this coming weekend. I even have a retrospective on Arkham City, Batman Arkham City. I replayed Arkham City recently. For reasons that I'll actually explain in the first part of that video. And I'll be doing a video on that. It's already been filmed, actually. I just got to edit it. So, tackling that. And also, I wanted to get Arkham City out of the way before I tackle Arkham Knight, because next month is the 10-year anniversary of Batman Arkham Knight. And I definitely wanted to get City out of the way before I handle Knight, and I do a 10-year retrospective on Arkham Knight, because I definitely want to be able to do that. Better see the penguins soon. I'm obsessed with those penguins. But thank you guys for watching. Take care, and as always, stay humble. Bye, guys.